A few weeks back, I put out this post or prompt in social media and in YouTube and got a lot of very interesting responses that we'll talk about in just a moment. So here is what I wrote. I think I may write a short advice piece titled "Don't Be That Guy." It will be about a type of mildly to fairly obnoxious behavior that some people fall into in online comments or responses, as well as during live talks. What would you guess that behavior would be? And as you can expect, not everybody guessed exactly what I have in mind because there's lots of types of bad, uncivil, selfish behavior that people exhibit, both in, as we said, live settings, but also in virtual or online settings as well. So we're going to look at some of the responses. I've managed to aggregate some of them into categories, and then we'll talk about what the behavior I had in mind was, which was guessed fairly quickly by somebody who I've had a lot of interactions with over the years. So the first early guesses, two interesting ones. One person, Wizard of the Invisible Eye, vainglory, pretentiousness, and refusal to learn. And I said, well, those are more qualities or traits that would motivate behavior rather than the type of behavior. But those are, motives that are very problematic. Vainglory, the desire to show off, pretentiousness, which is related to it, and then refusal to learn. That's a big problem. People probably do too much talking without learning in a lot of different environments. And then we get this laundry list coming from Jordan H. The first one, asking for something unreasonable. Then 2, plagiarism of videos. Well, that's not really something that's a live setting behavior. 3, being sarcastic or insulting for no reason. Yeah, that's a problem. Number 4, commenters thinking they're owed things when they're not. That does happen quite a bit. Number 5, pretending you know philosophy to go on to give bad advice or bad information about philosophy. Well, we're going to see something like that a little bit later. And then commenting on a video, watching part of it, then going on to make a point already addressed in the video. I actually do see quite a bit of that. And those are all bad behaviors, but they're not exactly what I had in mind. Now, we have one that, of course, how could this one not come up? I call it the infamous switcheroo, and many of you have heard these sorts of things at live talks. Actually, I have more of a comment than a question. If you're in a question-answer period, you really shouldn't be giving comments because you haven't been asked to give comments, and there's a sense of, who knows, entitlement or being important that leads people to give notes, give feedback, give comments, when really it's time and space that's for people to ask questions and get clarifications. Here's another very, very common issue, and this ties in a little bit to something that was mentioned just earlier, perhaps simply responding to what one thinks an article or a video is about without actually attempting to read it. And Twitter has a thing where if you see an article and you're just seeing the title and you're going to respond to it right away, it actually says, hey, do you want to read the article first? Good idea. Videos, when you first release a video and somebody is commenting within 2 minutes about a video that's 20 minutes long, they didn't watch the video, right? So maybe they should have watched it through and then responded to what is actually in the video rather than what they think is in it. And we see this as a very common problem. This could be an issue in live talks. Somebody comes in, 3/4 of the way through a discussion. They've read the title of the discussion. It's, ending. They raise their hand and they bring up a topic that's already addressed in the thing. Or maybe somebody actually said, I'm not going to talk about XYZ, and then they ask about that. Now, we also get those that you could call the kooky or incoherent. So Frederick says, word salad, just say you don't understand and ask for clarification or move on. Don't be word salad guy. And I see this a lot in comments where you see a comment and it's often kind of longish and it like jumps from point to point. It's got a lot of jargon in it and you're like, I don't know what's going on here. This doesn't add up. Sometimes there isn't even punctuation or organization of the ideas, and you can't do anything effective with it, right? I've learned asking them for clarification typically just results in still more word salad. Artem Lenski, insane unprompted conspiracy theories. Yeah, getting a peer into the head of somebody who's got a lot of stuff jumbled up inside there that doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense, except to them. And then we've got Chase Dooley, and this is a common one too, something along the lines, do you think Marcus Aurelius would carry a 1911, that's a Colt 45, or a Glock? Why does Epictetus not talk more about handguns? He has a handbook after all, ha 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 ha, right? So you do get a lot of off-the-wall comments like that where people, could take a word, misunderstand it, feed it into their own interests and ideas, and then it comes out not quite word salad, but certainly incongruous, let's say. Then we move on to other things that happen. I classify these as gatekeeping, name dropping, and clout seeking. People often try to appear to be the sage on the stage. There's a lot of people that are very attracted to the idea of informing other people about stuff. So Naga Dogo says, the guy who either ignores the obvious implications or entirety of what you said, and then either actually in the form of a disagreement on the points that you'd probably largely agree on, or just hijacks the stage by talking past you with something like, I suggest you read X. And now we're getting closer to the issue that I originally intended to. There are a lot of people who are super into telling you what you ought to be reading, not the topic that you're actually talking about. And Kirkenfruit is signaling a good one here. Let me drop this bibliography, half of which I've never read myself. Once you read these, you will understand how I'm right. There are a lot of people who reference texts who don't actually know what's in the text. They are judging by the title or somebody else has told them. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time that somebody has told me about a philosopher who I ought to read because they say, these important things, and I've actually got videos in my channel or talks about that philosopher, boy, I'd have, quite a bit. Jeremiah Schaefer says, citing Baudrillard or any other philosopher apropos of nothing except to flex in an otherwise normal conversation. And yeah, you see quite a bit of that. People wanting to bring up their favorite thinker who somehow is relevant, even though they're not relevant. And it could be about them trying to, make themselves look good as a result. And then we get this really interesting longer post by Andras saying, I witnessed a situation when in a chat room, a newcomer had some idea about the given topic and shared some introduction level concept. The topic's senior guy in the chat then responded with an unasked information bomb with suggested readings of a dozen books, spicing his sentences with many, many winking emoji. In my opinion, this emoji is the ultimate conversation killer. As an observer, I saw the senior guy's approach as very patronizing, even humiliating if you have some ego, and gave a totally bad impression about the whole topic, which is a branch of philosophy, by the way. And since I know both of them personally, as I predicted, the junior guy was totally turned down from any further look into this useful topic and getting drawn into a less resilient type of philosophy. By the way, I also told the senior guy face to face, I think his overeager communication possibly turned down someone from this topic for life. And so, yeah, there's a kind of gatekeeping there, a kind of, let me tell you, young person, where you're getting this stuff wrong, and here's the dozen books that you need to read. That is overbearing. And you can ask yourself, what's going on in their head? How did they get so bad at engaging with people about stuff that they're supposed to be expert on and interested in? Then we move on to pointless agonism and arguing, and you do see quite a bit of that. So here's a great one by Robofussen, coming to a conversation with some knowledge on a topic, but then cranking that up to 10 when discussing anything tangentially related to that topic, coming across as a tryhard. Yeah, okay, that's sometimes the case. People will have read a bit of a thinker and they want to do as much as they can with that, not realizing that oftentimes there's much more to the thinker's work than just that little nugget that they've got. Then we get a good one from this, Mappy Twardzik. Dudes who act like the comment section is suddenly a formal debate the moment someone says something they don't like. You all know these debate me bros, and they don't have to be male. There's plenty of women and others who do that silly sort of stuff. But, the comment section is not a formal debate unless both parties say, let's have a debate. And it's jerk behavior to try to impose that on somebody and insist that, if they don't respond to you the way that they want, they're being cowards, they're ceding the field. I mean, that's just jerk behavior. And we see the result of that with the Gear Attic Climber talks about needlessly long comment section debates where goalposts are constantly shifting and one or both is unwilling to just drop it and join the real world and says, I admit I sometimes succumb to this. And yeah, there we get some people who are acting in bad faith, you could say. And there's quite a few people out there like that. Now, what is the actual that guy behavior that I originally was referencing? So here were a few comments that are actually illustrating it. First one, hey, read Southern Ascends. It's a cool and weird steampunk series. And I wrote, well, you just managed to be that guy. Another, I don't know and I don't care. I'm sure I never do it. You should do something that caters to my personal taste instead. Also illustrating it, as we'll see. And then here's another. I will leave a comment that's completely unrelated to the conversation at hand. Better yet, it will be a question for you that I expect an answer to because, after all, you are my personal philosopher, Google. And, I am tempted quite often when people ask, very basic questions that they could easily find out to say, I'm not your Google. So people can exercise a little bit of work on their own part. So what was that guy behavior? So Gerald Sword managed to hit on it really, really well. Someone who tries to sneak in what they really want to talk about when it arguably has little, if nothing, to do with the topic in question, usually itching to talk about their own contentious personal beliefs, for example, in politics or religion. And I wrote, yeah, that's it. And it's often not even sneaking. So this is the person who in the back of the room gets up and says, well, I have a question for you. And it's about something that, it's not even closely related to the talk that you just gave. And then they want to keep talking about it, right? And why is this bad behavior? Well, it's kind of, disrespectful to the original poster presenter because it shows that you're not paying attention and you want people to pay attention to the things that you think matter, but you walked into a conversation that already has a topic. And so, you don't have to stick to the topic slavishly or anything like that, but it's good manners. If you're going to try to bring something else in, there better be some real connection, or you do it later. You come up to them afterwards, you send an email, instead of putting a comment on a YouTube video that's got nothing to do with that video and its topic, you direct message somebody, right? That's the polite or civil or thoughtful way to go about stuff. And, it's also the more productive way. If your goal is really to engage in a conversation with somebody who you think is an expert, has some background knowledge that you want to make use of, well, you have to treat them like a human being who actually matters and not like somebody who's just there to listen to you or as a button that you can push to get it to dispense whatever it is that you're looking for. So this is kind of a shoe fit, wears it thing. If you find yourself engaging in this behavior, you might want to think about that. And I'll admit that I've done that in my own time. I haven't done it for a while, but when I was younger, I was often that guy. And so, I understand where this often comes from, excitement, interest, but you got to be attentive to other people if you want to get on in life or even in the life of the mind. So that's where we'll end with this. You can leave your own comments. If you've got other That Guy instances, feel free to write about them. And I think I probably will try to do a little bit of writing about this in the future once my schedule opens up a bit, giving some useful advice on this particular topic. So that is it for this one.